soul. I'm the most selfish person that I know. Here we go, down the rabbit hole. Got a couple carrots around my neck, self-respect.
And we are live. Welcome back to Mescalo Moguls. It's your boy, the one with the Scarface. Your boy, Scarface. Thank you guys again for always checking out the podcast, supporting your boy. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys. Shout out to everyone who keeps, wherever you're listening to this, please leave us a 5-star thumbs up. If you guys want to watch the video version, YouTube, Spotify, everything is linked. So you guys can check that out, or any platform you guys want. We're on there as well. So shout out to everybody who keeps listening every week. You guys message me, great feedback. So thank you. If you also want to help the podcast, we also do sell these hat pins. I always have them on my hats and stuff. We have the straight razor, the baseball, and the sleeping Goku. So definitely go check those out. I really do appreciate it because, it helps the podcast out. That way, I can continue to add stuff to the podcast, and that way you guys can get a better experience. So thank you guys again. Please leave us a thumbs up or a 5-star, okay? But today's episode, one of the more popular things that I've been getting lately is communication with a guy. And this one's kind of difficult because every guy is a little bit different and communication styles is a little bit different. So again, it totally depends on how this person was brought up too. Everybody's brought up a little bit different. So guys, communications could vary and could be different depending on the person. So I know in the beginning, I was pretty difficult to communicate with, I didn't want to talk about things because, that's how it is. When you grow up, you really don't talk about your feelings, opening up to somebody, what's bothering you. You're almost conditioned to be that, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to hold it in. And then eventually, people implode. People implode. And so just to avoid those type of situations, I would just recommend just talking. And especially if guys with the girl partners, people should be talking about these things, should be talking, because it helps the relationship. A lot of relationships get ruined because of their lack of communication. And it could have been saved, or it could have been stopped from being toxic, a bunch of little things. So that's why if you're a guy listening to this, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay. And girls, it's not the easiest to get a guy to talk about certain things. So just be aware of that's going to be a mission in itself to get somebody to talk about certain things. So today what we're actually going to talk about is the impact of different communication styles. And hopefully, you can kind of identify somebody's communication style, how they, because everyone communicates differently. Could be body language, could be this, could be that, So, hopefully you're going to be able to identify one of those with one of what we're going to talk about today. So, the first one that we have is assertiveness. This style involves expressing your thoughts and feelings honestly and respectfully. It often leads to healthier relationships as it promotes open and direct communication. See? And that's what I kind of talk about. And it's something that I tend to do as well now. Because before it wasn't like that. I would just not talk about things and just basically let people assume things, let people, you know what I mean? It's just different. I'm just trying to take myself back to that, that time and period where I wouldn't really talk. Meaning, I wouldn't talk about whoever I was with. I wouldn't talk about issues I was going through. I would just basically, just hold it in. And I think that's most guys. But ever since I, shout out to my ex, the only thing I shout her out for is she helped me open up about just talking about certain things. Because you've seen some of these guys, they they really don't talk about anything. You know, you ask them what's wrong, they're gonna say, "Oh, nothing," and things like that. So, and that's typical behavior, if you want to say that, like to certain guys. So you gotta kind of um, that's why I always try to push communication, like communication with guys. It's because I feel like I have like a freaking mosquito on me. Like it's weird. There was a mosquito flying around earlier. Um, like just opening up. That's why hopefully more guys listen to this than anything. That way they can see that it's okay to talk about certain things. In because some guys think it's not cool to talk about that. It's not cool to do this. Um, and probably some guys probably think like it's not cool for me to do like podcast episodes like this because it like outs people. But I think the best thing is just being straight up. That's why I always in like some of my TikToks I always say, if you have an issue, just bring it up. Doesn't matter how soon in the relationship, how late in the relationship, sooner the better actually. Because like if I really mess with you and I really like you and you tell me that this is bothering you, I'm gonna try to fix it right away. But if you don't say anything in the beginning, then later on, now I'm just like, well, you never said nothing in the beginning. But now it's an issue, you know? So that's why just be assertive. Like if there's something that bugs you in the beginning, tell them. If it bugs them or anything like that, then obviously this person is not meant for you, because if they're getting bugged by you telling them something that you didn't like or that you would like for them to do, then it's probably the wrong person for you. So, all right. So the next one we have is passive. People with passive style tend to avoid conflict and may have difficulty expressing their needs. This can lead to frustration and unmet expectations in a relationship. And that's what I meant. And that's a lot of guys right there, is the passive. A lot of guys try, I mean, I was, myself included, I was there too. I'm not going to act like I was there. Just try to avoid talking about some of those things, you know? I would always avoid it. And I know a lot of guys that would avoid, I mean, you've seen it. Again, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. People would be like, oh, what's wrong? Oh, nothing's wrong. I'm fine. In reality, nothing was fine. You know, like there was a bunch of things bugging you, issues going on. And so you would just think that everything was fine when everything was not fine. And that's the wrong way to communicate about some of these things. And we should, you know, avoid that, just because like it says unmet expectations. And then and if you don't know what the issue is, you know, like what makes you think that it's not gonna change later on? You know what I mean? Like you can't expect something to change when you don't know what the issues are. So if you don't know what the issues are, like how do you expect somebody to change? So that's why, again, it wasn't easy for my ex to get me to start talking about things, because I did a whole podcast episode on it too. She would basically just like try to get me to talk, try to get me to talk, try to get me to talk. And then I would like snap back at her like, oh, it's this. But then like I would just like close off again. And it got me to talk a lot more. And now I'm pretty open, like talking about things. Like if something bugs me or I have an issue with something, like I bring it up. I don't care how soon we've been talking, how long we've been talking. Like I could have just met you today and then you did some like red flag. I mean, usually I just like leave it alone, but I'm not afraid to be like, yo, what's up with this? You know, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that. And I also expect the same, or like I'm willing to also communicate, you know what I mean? Like to the whoever I'm talking to at the time. If they bring up stuff like that, like tell me what's bugging you, and like we can figure this stuff out. So that's another one, is just being a passive, you know, passive. And come on, we all know guys are like this. We have issues going on, but we always say we don't have nothing going on. So I would just recommend it, just talk. It's okay. Like I think that's the biggest thing that I learned, that it was okay to talk about certain situations. You know, it's hard being vulnerable. and like talking. You know what I mean? So I think that's why like a lot of guys try to be like all macho and stuff like that. But I think it's actually worse for even for mental health, like just keeping things in. So I would just highly recommend talking and not being so passive, because I think that's the biggest one for the guys. Is a lot of us guys are very passive, and we just don't communicate, and we don't want to communicate. And some guys, it's just I wish a lot more people would talk, because I saw the benefit of communicating with people. So it's funny because like I'm talking about it and I'm just like going through like how I used to be. Like I remember like for example, my ex, she would be like, "What's wrong?" Because I was like quiet or something, I think, and I would be like, "Oh, nothing's wrong." But in reality, there was a lot of things. Like I was like upset over something, or I didn't like something, or you know what I mean? Like just like a bunch of different things like that. And I just didn't want to talk about it because maybe I was assuming that she knew what was bugging me. But again, I can't really remember. I just know that a lot of the times when I was asked what's wrong, I would just say nothing's wrong. And in reality, a lot of things were wrong. So the next one that we have is aggressive. Aggressive communication involves being overly forceful, disrespectful, or confrontational. It can damage relationships by creating tension and resentment. And like this one, the aggressive one, is one of the reasons why I tell people to wait to get into relationships, or like actual official boyfriend girlfriend relationships, because in the beginning, a guy is not going to be like that. Or I mean, sometimes they are, but they're not going to show their true colors until later on in the relationship. Because what if in the beginning, like your arguments are just like, oh, it was a cute argument, he got jealous over this or whatever. But like your fourth and fifth argument, it's going to be like get a little bit more real. What if he like punches walls? What if he yells? What if he gets super disrespectful? What if he hits you? So that's why I always say wait. Why are you guys in a hurry to get in a relationship with somebody so you can see that this person is the wrong person for you? Or just take it slow, take it slow, because some guys will communicate how they're feeling with their anger. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something that shouldn't be like, it should be obviously like verbal, like you and me talking, and it would be fine. Like you can work things out that way, but not everyone is like that. And we know that. And if you have someone who's aggressive like that, and that's not something that can be fixed right away, that's something like narcissists too. That it's not something they can, because in their head they've done absolutely nothing wrong, but we all know they have. But they'll never believe that. So you got to take your time, pay attention to actions. I always say that to people is because that's a big thing. Like just look to see what they're doing. Are they putting in the effort? Are they trying to communicate? Like, are they giving you red flags? Are they being aggressive like that? If they're a little bit aggressive in the beginning, trust me, like that shit's gonna get worse later on, because that's just like they're kind of like showing a preview of like how they are. So you have to pay attention to these things. And if you see it, bring it up. Be like, yo, like what's up with that? Like I didn't like that you got aggressive like that. Like it's overly aggressive. Because trust me, I got called out one time, and and then in my head I'm like, oh fuck, that was kind of, because I went to go hang out with the girl, right? And obviously, like I said, like I don't date girls from here, so I had to travel quite a bit to go see this girl, and she basically was not giving me any attention. You know what I mean? Like we were with like a group of people, and like I don't know why I was like, oh, I'm traveling this far to go see her. I'm expecting for her to be like with me. You know what I mean? Like, but we were there with friends, like her friends. And so she was like just talking to people and stuff like that. So I don't know. At that time, I felt some type of way. And then I just went and did my own thing. I went and did my own thing. And later on, she was like, what's wrong? I was like, no. But then in my head, I was like, nah, you got to say what's wrong. And I was just like, basically, like, yo, I didn't like that you were, that I came all the way over here. And then like, you didn't even pay attention to me. And you know what I mean? Like something like that. And like, I brought that up. But the way I told her, I did tell her kind of aggressive. And then later on, she was like, yeah, I really didn't like how you came at me like that aggressive. And I was like, really? I didn't realize it was aggressive, you know? But, you know, you learn, but that obviously didn't work out. But uh, I learned, I was like, okay, next time don't approach that situation that way. Uh, you know, especially how I acted towards her and things like that. I was like, I did feel some type of way because again, I traveled to go see this person and she basically like I was like an option, you know, and I was like, what the fuck? Like over the phone, she was like this way, and then all of a sudden like I get here and she's like this way, and like kind of made me a little upset. But see, like this is how we learn, we communicate. Like she didn't like that, I didn't like this, and then I mean we still tried to like talking a little bit, but it ended up not working out. So the next one that we do have is passive aggressive. This style involves indirect expressions or of anger or frustration, like sarcasm or silent treatment. It can erode to trust and create confusion in relationships. Now, ladies, you guys have seen the guys who give you the silent treatment. What does the silent treatment mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Come on, girl. Come on. Like freaking oh fuck, what's his name? Theo Vaughn says, come on. So you just have to passive aggressive. That's, you know, silent treatment. Because I've done it before. I'm not gonna act like I've never done this. I think most guys have done the silent treatment. And I think a lot of girls have done the silent treatment too. And that's just, I think in our head, we go through like, if I don't say anything and I just don't talk to him or her, they're going to realize that I'm upset and they're going to ask why I'm upset. You know what I mean? Like, I remember like this one chick, she was giving me the silent treatment one time and I was like, all right, well, if you don't want to talk, oh, well. And I just left and she's like, oh, wow, thanks for like asking what's like, you know, I was like, well, you're giving me the silent treatment. You don't want to talk. So obviously like, so, but I don't think that's the proper way because especially us guys will be like we expect you to know what's bothering us. That way you can like fix it out of nowhere without us having to communicate with you. And that's obviously not the case. So we'll do stuff like that, be passive aggressive, sarcasm, and then also passive aggressive. Like I always tell people, especially when they try to make fun of you or something like that, be sarcastic with you. You know how like you've ever seen someone playing around when they'll be like, oh yeah, like that's why you did that. I'm totally kidding. No. Something always comes from somewhere, you know. Again, I mess around with friends too at the end of the day, like, but I've never been like doing it out of a place of being mean, being disrespectful. I'll play around, like joking around, and people know, like, because I'm an honest person. If you ask me something, I'm gonna tell you the truth. If, like, for example, if you tell me you're gonna work out and start losing weight, like if you tell me that, I'll be like, oh, like the next time I see you, how's it going? Like with that, and they're like, oh, this and that. I was like, well, you look bigger. Like I'll be honest. Like I was like, you want me to lie to you? You want me to be like, you know? But then sometimes I'll play around, like also with the same person, be like, oh, like this, and this. But that's me playing around, not me like trying to like disrespect this person or anything out of nowhere. And the reason I'm honest with people is because like, okay, well, why'd you tell me you're gonna work out and lose weight when you do the complete opposite? So maybe I should call you out so you can be like, ah, shit, like Edgar gonna see me, and I told him I was gonna work out, and he's gonna call me out next time. So I'm thinking like you'll switch it up, and so like if you lose weight, I'll be like, oh shit, hell yeah, like you've been cutting some weight, you looking good, looking lean, you know. I'll tell you straight up. So. But some people do communicate like passive aggressive, so you have to pay attention to it. Not just in relationships, but obviously we're talking about relationships here. But this is just in general. Like some people will be passive aggressive, like throw some jabs at you, playing around. I'm doing air quotes. And sometimes in reality, that is how they feel towards you. Like that's what they want to tell you. But they'll tell you like throw you a jab, like, and then they'll hit you with the playing around. It's kind of like the whole like, but with all due respect, you know, like. Hey, like you're so and so, but with all due respect, So like that's supposed to be like a pass or something. So pay attention to the passive aggressive. That's another form of communication that somebody may be communicating with you. So, because again, like we have to pay attention to these things because sometimes some people don't want to talk to each other, like how they're feeling. So just pay attention to some of the things they do. So that's why we're going over this stuff. So you guys can get some ideas, kind of like watch your person that you're with. And the next one that we have is emotional. Some people rely heavily on emotions when communicating, which can lead to misunderstanding if logic and reason are ignored. I've dealt my fair share with emotional people, and yes, that is I can attest to that some people do get very emotional, but then like you don't know. I feel like some people get overly emotional. Again, like everyone's communication is different and people react to it differently. I don't think I do. Like I did something wrong one time. My bad. I didn't realize I was doing something bad. And like she went off. Like when she got mad, she got mad. When she got sad, she got sad. And like she was overly emotional. I'm like, fuck. Like it wasn't that bad. Sorry, it's all the talking. And so that this one I haven't really been, because I'm not an emotional person. I won't be like, oh, I'm super sad right now. Like sometimes if I'm down, I do something to like keep myself distracted. Work, gym, run, you name it. I'll do something, like shoot something. Shoot something I mean by like photos or video, not like shoot something, because I know some people are like, I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go shooting. Oh, what do you shoot with? Oh, I got like the Canon this, Canon that. And they're like, oh shit, we thought you meant like shooting a gun or something like that. So I even said that to one time. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go shoot this girl. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh, like not like that. I'm gonna go like take pictures of her. So emotional one, I mean, hopefully people can help on this one. I don't think I've been a super emotional person, meaning like I know people are like, oh, cancers are super emotional, but like how? How, like, am I supposed to be like overly sad, overly angry on certain things? Or like when something bugs me, be mad about it. When something like makes me sad, be sad, like be crying or something. You know what I mean? Like, so that one I can't really touch too much on just because I don't know like too much about that one. But that can also be another one, like for your person, you can be like, oh, like my person gets very emotional every time they're like trying to communicate something with me. So, excuse me. Analytical communicators focus on facts, details, and data. While this can be effective in certain contexts, it may come across as cold or distant in personal relationships. And I don't think I've been analytical, to be honest. But I think that could mean like you're paying it. I mean, maybe I am, because I pay attention to a lot of things, but not in a bad way. Like I pay attention to, like, if you tell me you love the color red, I'm like, all right, cool. She likes red. I'm gonna remember that. Oh, and then like like people will talk, right? But I'll remember like little things. Uh, Again, I always give that example of like the different colored candies. I remember a girl, she's like, oh, I like these. So I went and like bought a bunch of them, took all the colors that she liked, put them in a bowl, or that wasn't a bowl, but okay, it was like a glass jar. And then like I wrapped that and like I took it to her, like to surprise her. I was like, oh, here you go. I got you this because I know you like that. And she was like, oh my God, like little things like that. I pay attention to a lot of little things. For example, I know this one chick that I used to talk to, she loved cats, and she was like huge into cats. And so what I did was I got different I got her, and she was into reading too. She was into reading, so I got her those like what do they call them? Those bookend things. But it was a cat. It was a cat, and like it was a cool looking cat. So it was for that, or you could have used it for like a paperweight or something like that. And then also this other figure that was pretty cool, that was a cat as well. And she loved them, by the way. So you know what I mean? Like I pay attention to a little things. Maybe that's a way I communicate as well, like showing like, hey, I like you. So I can see that. But then I think that's also, when people like they feel like when they do stuff for you, they feel like you should do something in return for him. I got you this, so I expect you to do this. I got you this, so I expect the same in return. You know what I mean? Like, uh, so again, I've never experienced something like that. Again, people could probably say that I'm that analytical, but I would say in a good way. But also, I can see if someone will say I'm a bad way because I do pay attention to a lot of things. Like when people are talking, I pay attention to like, uh, do you pick up your phone when like, not in a bad way, like who's she talking to? But like, why are you picking up your phone? Like we're on a date or something like that. Like you don't see me grabbing my phone, and things like that. And so, and then just like how they treat people, how they treat waitresses, how they mm, how they talk. Do they look at me if they talk at me? Like, and just things like that. Like I pay attention. So maybe, yeah. So I would say so, but I've never done it in a bad way, I think. So the next one that we have is empathetic. An empathetic style involves actively listening and validating their feelings, validating the feelings of others. It can foster strong emotional connection in relationships. And I think, see, I feel like a lot of people should be empathetic because a lot of the times when, like, say a girl's trying to communicate to the guy, right? We probably heard 40% of what they told us. So how can we be like, oh yeah, that sucks? But like how is that communicating? You could have been like, dang, like if you actually paid attention to what she said, you could have been like, oh shit, like that, what can we do to like fix this? Maybe we can try to do something like this. I feel bad for you. Maybe we can do something like this. Be a little bit more empathetic, But then also pay attention to like a guy, if he's very empathetic like that, that's the way he communicates, So talking to him, you may be able to get some like answers from. But I think everybody has to be empathetic. Trust me, I was at fault for it too. Like with an ex, she would try to talk to me like what was bothering that day, and I didn't, I didn't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's me thinking selfishly. Anytime I had an issue, she would listen. But then like when she was talking about this and that, I was just like, whatever. Like, and so like when she wanted a response from myself, I really didn't have one. I was like, well, what was it again? I'm sure some of you ladies have heard that when you tell the guy something and then they respond, oh, what'd you say again? Huh? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah. So there's like different things like that. But if you're not empathetic, fellas, let's be a little bit empathetic to the ladies. All right. So the next one that we have is nonverbal communication isn't just about words. Nonverbal cues like body language and tone of voice can convey a lot. Misinterpreting these cues can impact relationships. And I think guys do this a lot. It's just, again, because I was there too. I would always assume that the girl is supposed to know what's bothering me, but it's not true. Like if you don't tell them what's bothering you, they don't know they did something wrong or something they did bothered you. That's why you got to bring it up, like that's why sometimes guys will give you like little snaps, a little bit aggressive, like they'll whatever, and just like walk away or just not even pay attention to you. You could be telling them something. I've done this before too. Like I remember like an ex was talking to me and I didn't want to talk to her. And so she would say something and I'm just like still on my either like laptop or phone and just like whatever. And then like it would make her more upset that I was just like ignoring her, blatantly ignoring her in her face. So, and it just made shit worse. It's funny, like when you think about it now, you're like, oh shit, like no wonder that escalated. So you got to pay attention to those, like, and if they give you a nonverbal cue, you know how sometimes when you're like, something's bugging him. What's wrong? No, I'm good. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. If they tell you that, girl, I'm 90% sure something is wrong. It's just gonna take a little bit to get them out of like get that info out of them, because they're not gonna talk, especially if they're not a communication type of person. They're not gonna talk to you. They're just gonna again assume that you should know what they're talking about. Us guys are weird species. Hmm. So we had an issue with my Roadcaster. It right before I read the last one, I looked over and I saw it wasn't recording. So we're gonna do the last one again. I mean, I wasn't into it uh, that much. The last one is passionate. Some individuals communicate with intense enthusiasm, which can inspire but overwhelm others if not balanced. And so I was talking about this one because I think some of us confuse enthusiasm for clingy, or not enthusiasm. Well, yeah, enthusiasm, passionate for being clingy, because I remember I was in the middle of the story. I was talking to this chick and she was just like overly like messaging me this. And I'm just like, chill. Like maybe that's not something I like, is when somebody talks to me like that, or like is over enthusiastic. Maybe they were very passionate about it. Maybe they get very passionate when they're talking to somebody. But I couldn't do it. Like I was like, girl, chill. And like she would get upset when I wouldn't message her back, and or I would take forever to message her back, even though I told her I was like, yo, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it was always an issue. So I think maybe we might be confusing someone who is passionate, communicating passionately, for a what we call clingers. But again, some people just could be like that. They need to be reassured, constantly reassured. So they keep messaging you like that because they want to know, they want to know, they want to know. So again, like it could be both here. But I think at the end of the day, we just need to pay attention. I always say pay attention to people's actions, attention to their actions. I pay attention to people's body language as well. Like I can kind of tell like when somebody's into me, or if they're actually like vibing or anything like that. That's why like sometimes I'm like, all right, cool. Like I can like do this, meaning like I'll try to like kiss her or, and things like that. So communication comes in many forms. It's just paying attention to your person. Just don't think that they're going to communicate to you verbally, because especially guys have a hard time communicating verbally, and I've been one of those. I'm not going to act like I've never been a horrible communicator with whoever I was talking to, but it takes time to get open up. And hopefully guys who listen to the podcast can open up as well. It's a big thing, because lack of communication can ruin relationships, or can make the person assume that there's issues going on, but they don't know what the issue is, so they can't fix it until it gets bad. It gets too late. Now people are just like, I'm over this. It took them forever to fix it. But that's because we talked about it too far along down the road, where it became a bigger problem. So that's why I always say, like, if something's bugs you, bring it up the moment it bugs you, because then people are willing to like fix it, especially if they're into you. If they're not into you, they just be like, whatever, there's not an issue. But if they're into you, I'd be like, oh, because again, I told this story before. I remember when a girl told me like, hey, I didn't like that you did that. And I'm like, oh shit, my bad. Like I didn't realize I was doing that. So I stopped doing that, because I was like, this girl's kind of fly. I'm vibing with her. I'm not going to do that again. So again, that's why I said, just bring it up. Don't be afraid to bring up situations. People are always afraid to say something, because I've seen it in the TikToks and stuff before. They'll be like, I just don't want to come off as someone who's clingy, or like that person. And I was like, no, I would rather be that person than let this slide or let that slide and things like that. So just bring it up. And if you're having a hard time like communicating with your partner, just pay attention to their actions, how they communicate. Because again, we went over like 9 different ones, and a lot of them are most of them are nonverbal. So just pay attention to things like that, and see which one yours is. And I love doing these podcasts, because I start learning a lot about myself, and just like thinking back, it's like, oh shit, I was doing that. Like no wonder. Like the whole one where I was like scrolling and just completely ignoring my ex. Of course, that's gonna freaking get worse. Is gonna cause a negative reaction, because I'm not communicating with her. My communicating to her that I was upset with her was not talking to her, ignoring her, even though she was right there talking to me, which made shit worse. But that's why I love doing these podcasts. That's why I love that you guys give me these topics to talk about, because it helps me, obviously, because I tell you guys all the time that I'm not perfect, and I'm just trying to get better myself. So, but I want to thank you guys for listening to another episode. Hopefully this has brought value to you. If it has, please share it. Please leave us a 5-star. Please give us a thumbs up. That way we can continue to grow the podcast. And, shout out to everybody who follows me on TikTok. If you haven't followed me on TikTok, go and follow me. Merch, pins, everything is linked down below in my link thing. Thank you again for always tuning in every week. And I'll see you guys later. Should I act like like a news thing? Like, hey.
That's why I keep my circle smaller than a Cheerio. Cause this the company you keep. Stay woke. Please don't get caught sleep. End up sowing what